Hello and welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. And who doesn't want a better life? Well, you're in the right place if that is you, and we're happy to have you here with us for the next hour while we discuss one element of kind of what we think it takes to build a better life. And we hope that it's something that you really resonate with and you start to apply in your own life, or at least consider. And the we that I talk about every time, and this is the 99th time, is myself. I'm JDK Winnikin, and I am here with a person who really just makes this show go to so many different places that I never know. Sometimes there's trepidation, but oftentimes there's a lot of excitement. My friend, my business partner, my co-host, the lovely Ashley Knievel. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. This is an exciting.
This is a big deal.
It's a big
99.
Deal. 99 episodes. This is episode 99, wow. Which means, of course, next week, everybody, is episode 100. And we got some fun stuff in store for that one. But as to kind of way to kind of prepare the way for what we're going to go with that, we're going to talk about something tonight for episode 99 that's going to be about the challenges that have shaped us. Mm-hmm. Ashley and I decided that episode 100 would focus on a lot of gratitude for where we've been, not just in the show, but gratitude in general. But we thought a really good thing to do before we did that was to talk about the challenges that when we're going through them, we aren't really grateful for, but how they shaped us to kind of point us in the direction of gratitude. And even just as recently as last week, Ashley, we talked about how it's the difficult challenges that help us grow, right? Not so much the great successes. And so we're going to talk about those tonight. And so this is how this is going to go tonight. Ashley and I decided that it's so important when we're talking about to build a better life, to be vulnerable, to share with people. Ashley even mentioned it in the last episode, telling people what's going on with you, sharing those things. We thought in the spirit of that, we would each share with each other, as well as with all of you, 3 stories each of some big things that have shaped us in our life, and to put that forward. So not to put too heavy of a cast on it, because as every show of Staying Power shows, we have a lot of serious things we talk about. We also laugh a lot. And part of that combination is on purpose, because those 2 things are what it takes in a lot of ways to move through these and build resilience. Okay, so all right, Ashley, really quick before we jump into these. One of the things I always like to talk about is the science of all this kind of stuff and why this isn't just pie in the sky stuff that we're making up. It's not a woo-woo bumper sticker, right? That kind of thing.
Yes.
The power of storytelling is actually proven in our brains to really connect us with ourselves, with our emotions, and with other people. You mentioned last week, we tell ourselves, we have running narratives in our head all day, and we encounter the stories that we tell ourselves. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're not so helpful. Sometimes they self-sabotage us. But when we tell our stories, we write them down, when we listen to somebody share them, they connect us to our bodies and our minds in ways that help us really not only connect with other people, but to build the meaning and build the resilience, the better life that we're looking for, because we see our commonalities, we see our differences, we see in the other person things that we admire, perhaps things we want to emulate, perhaps things we don't. All those things together can help bring that. So that's why we wanted to go there. And this is why this matters. It's not just about Ashley and I telling these stories so you all can get to know us better, but because we're kind of trying to practice what we preach in that sense. Is that fair to say,
Sure.
Ashley? Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say on this before we jump into this?
No, not necessarily. I'm a little bit excited about this because these might be stories that we may know about each other. We may not know about each other. Most of our audience probably has not heard them, or maybe has heard snippets. And I would imagine there will be a range of differences between what you say and what I say, and how impactful they are for us personally. Whereas if, like, you may say something and I may think, well, that's kind of a big deal, but if that were to happen to me, that wouldn't be as big of a deal. Or I may think something that I had that was super impactful. You're like, well, that's huge, or that's really small. But it has nothing to do with everybody else's opinion. It has to do with it was for us.
Right.
And everybody's experience is personal to them.
Right. Right.
And to also not let other people belittle or downplay your experiences either.
Right. Right.
So
okay.
it's going to be a good one.
Very good. Okay. So Ashley, you always get to go first.
Like, does this mean I'm going first?
Right.
Okay, fine. Actually, I'm kind of curious if we both have one. Actually, that is one thing. I'm curious if any of ours are parallel
Okay.
to each other.
We're going to find out.
Let's see. Well, let's dive in the first one. Okay. So one of the bigger impactful things I think that has happened to me in my life, I was in my mid-20s, and it was one of my first major car accidents that I've had. Everyone remembers their first accident.
Oh.
I've had two that I've been involved in. I was a passenger both times. Both were not fun. One was a rollover, and I was almost 16. But the one I'm actually talking about right now it happened on a freeway. I got kind of like you. I got rear-ended on a freeway. A passenger in my own car, brand new. I had bought it like 6 months prior. And we were at a dead stop, and the person that hit me from behind was going like 45 miles an hour.
Ooh.
And it's to the point that like we ran into the car in front of us, and it was a whole ordeal, like getting the cars off to the side of the road. It is downtown Bellevue, if people know the Seattle area, on a Friday around 4:30.
Ooh.
So it's just like, meh. And it's really hot out. It was midsummer. So, we do all that. And then the car gets towed somewhere. And then I had to go through all that. I've never been through this before. Like, nerves are running really high. I'm trying desperately to remember, okay, what did mom and dad always tell me? Like, call this and do this and have your license and all your insurance information.
Hard to do when you're rattled too.
Yeah, you're rattled, and then there's a lot going on. We had a dog in the car, and now we're taking care of the dog, and it's the whole thing. And then we got the car towed, but then I had to walk like 3 miles to wherever I was meeting somebody to pick me up, to then take me to another place to meet my parents. And at that age, that was like one of the very first really large adult impactful things that I had to handle myself. My parents weren't there to like handle the car accident for me.
Yeah.
I had to figure it out by myself. I mean, I had somebody driving my car, and so they could only do so much because they don't own the car. They don't really have anything to do with it. And then I'm like, I also had a minor concussion from that. So now you're also battling a whole bunch of things all at once. And I just remember that it was so impactful of going through that. I thought I was over it like a month or two later. It had passed. The initial driving, it's always a little scary to get back on the road because now you're like looking through the rear mirror, like, is someone going to rear end me again? There's always that worry. I was a very careful driver, left a lot of space between me and the car in front of me, so on and so forth. However, I still to this day struggle when I'm a passenger in somebody else's car, which is so strange.
It shook you on some core level.
It must have left some sort of imprint in there somewhere. And I have ridden with people that I very much trust their driving, and most times I do okay. But I still have sometimes. Usually it's when people are driving a manual versus an automatic because they can, get right up behind somebody and stop, like hard stop. And I'm not the one in control again. And I panic still a little bit. And it's so like I feel myself like pressing my foot into the floor of like trying to brake. And I'm like, Ashley, you're a passenger right now. What are you doing?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that combined with it being the first kind of quite adult experience, is there a relationship between that and that fear that comes up, like as if like that was the first time I had to handle something like that and it scared me to death? And I don't want to project anything, but it brings up things like, do you not want to face that again? Did you feel you didn't handle it well the first time?
No, because all of it in that regard was has never crossed my mind since. I think I handled it fine. I got everyone's information I needed to do. I figured out on my own how to get the car to tow the car to a place and have a quote done and get a rental in the meantime, like all the insurance bananas. I got all that sorted. But it's just the fact I still have somewhere in me a fear that raises its ugly head when I'm a passenger in somebody else's car.
Was that the first time you'd really faced like your mortality, that you could be
Maybe
badly
so.
hurt
Yeah, that could be.
or worse,
Could have been it.
and not having, it wasn't something to worry about once upon a time.
Yeah.
I just wonder about that. Because that's a hard lesson, right? And I'm sure anybody out there listening who's been in a car accident like that, like I have as well, can appreciate that, where you're like, whoa, this could have been a whole lot worse. And you have a reaction that's like, yeah, this could have been a whole lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
My rear end accident was 5 months ago now, almost. And still, when I have to slow down on a hill or on the freeway, I immediately look in the rearview mirror.
Right?
And I'm looking, is that person slowing down? Is that slowing down? And I feel that same thing, right? Don't want to do that. And yeah, there's the protective instinct and all of that, those things. But, ooh, yeah, that sounds tough. I'd heard about you'd had a car accident, but I'd never heard it in that detail. 3 miles? You had to walk off it was on the freeway?
Yeah, so it happened on
So you
the
had to
freeway.
walk
And then
3 miles on the freeway?
No, I did not have to walk on the freeway. No, it happened on the freeway. Car got towed.
Oh.
And then from the tow place
Then you had
to
to walk.
where I was going. And this was
I
like
missed that detail.
12-ish years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. But you feel like you're overcoming it?
I think so. And then I have moments where I'm like, oh, it's still there.
Got it.
I think it has gotten better. It is still there.
Got it. Okay. All right. For
What's
my
yours?
story, it's in 2 parts, and I'm going to keep it as quick as possible so it doesn't go too long. For your sake, Ashley, and for the sake of all our listeners.
Well, you have a few
and our
minutes.
time limits.
You
So
have 5 minutes or whatever.
when I was a kid living in Hawaii, in kindergarten, I was bullied mercilessly by 3 second-grade kids who were in a different building. And it got to the point where I was so scared to go outside for recess that I would essentially go outside and hide behind the open door, right? And these kids were rough. And it was teasing. I was, white kid, predominantly not white area. So there was teasing there. I was a really sensitive kid, so I wasn't super strong, and I was intimidated. When I got angry, I would shed tears, right? So I felt humiliated that way. But it got pretty rough, things like, they'd corner me in the bathroom, right? In the boys' bathroom, hold me down and pee on me. So it looked like I had wet myself, and then I'd have to go to the teacher and say I wet myself, and they'd have to call my parents. My parents have to bring clothes. And I remember my parents being so confused by like, he's not wetting the bed at home. What's going on here? This kind of thing. These kids threatened me, second graders, right? Threatening me, if you tell anybody, we're going to kill you, right? Is this kind of thing. And it was horrible. My parents remember it being over a period of a couple of months, which when you're in kindergarten, that's a lifetime. So it felt that way all the time. And it was all in secret. It was all hidden, and it was all horribly shameful. Now, I tell that story because it did shape me for a really long time, and it altered a lot of my ways of thinking, and it made it difficult for me to grow past certain points in trusting other people, feeling like I was a strong person, feeling I was worthy of being paid attention to, not being beat up. And I built a lot of relationships around just being whatever I needed to be for that person, just to stay safe. So I wasn't a target, which meant I didn't really have a sense of who I was or what really mattered, and I would just go along with anything, right? And then I'd feel a lot of shame about that, or a lot of anxiety about that. And so that shaped me in a real negative way for a really long time. Fast forward all the way to 2017, I've blown up my life spectacularly, and I'm rebuilding it, and it ties back to some of these things. And my therapist had pointed out to me when she identified this, she said, how often do you think of that teasing? And I said, every day. And she said, every day? She said, JD, you're in your late 30s, early 40s. Still thinking every day about something that happened when you were 6 or 7 indicates there's something deep there. So I targeted that. Moving forward, 2017, I had a chance to go back to Hawaii for the first time in 25 years. And so I did, and I went back with the intent of confronting some of these things emotionally. It was a therapeutic trip, right? So I went to visit my best friend who still lives there. He picked me up. He knew why I was coming there. And I turns out one of his good buddies was the vice principal at that same school. And I said, could you set up a time for me to just go? I'd like to go back and see it. So I went back. It looks exactly the same. Exactly the same. The town I grew up in, Hilo on the Big Island, doesn't change much, right? Mm-hmm. And so everything looked really the same. I was struck by the fact that everything looked smaller than it did when I was a kid, as I remembered it.
Because you're taller.
Right,
than
it was
most
taller,
things now.
bigger. And so 2 things happened. He took me over to the old kindergarten classroom, right, to go in. And of course, the kids were in school. And so I walk in, and of course, he had told them he was bringing somebody in. And so I walk in and hear all these beautiful kindergartners, getting emotional, beautiful kindergartners enjoying being kids in kindergarten. The teachers, and the room looked exactly the same, Ashley.
Oh, wow.
The little library was in the back left-hand corner in the sitting area, and the toys were over here. And it was like I walked back in.
Yeah.
And I had this visual. I remember being a kid and hiding in the corner by the books. And I just had this visual of going over and getting that inner child that I felt that I had left there, bringing him out and saying, hey, here to get you, taking me out. He ended up walking me right by the boys' bathroom where I said, give me a minute. And I went in. He doesn't know any of this, right? This poor vice principal, right? He's like, why is this guy doing this?
What is going on?
But I was so, the reception I got, I remembered the joy of being a kid. I went to the restroom and I went, okay, I don't have to worry about this anymore, right? Inner child work, right? You don't have to worry about this anymore. And then he took me across to the second grade room, the second grade building. And these kids had all been in a class for reading for kids who had trouble reading. And I remember being afraid of their section on the second floor. And he walked me through there, and I felt that terror come back on the second floor, that's where those kids were. And he, again, not knowing, took me into the room. It's the same class, teaching the same thing with the same age kids. And I walk in, and again, all these kids greet me, but they're in there learning how to read because they're having trouble with it. They're not happy being there. And I look at these kids, and they're so small. They're young, second grade. And I immediately almost fell apart again because I'm like, those bullies in second grade, what was going on for them in their little lives that they were coming after a younger kid with such vehemence, with such violence, with such threat? What was going on in their life? It shattered the anger and the resentment I had, and I went to empathy on it, and I broke down. And then I had to tell this vice principal what was going on.
He's like,
right? He's like, what is going on? Yeah, right. And I ended up, long story short, those two things together ended up, I was able to do a lot of healing with that and remember on that trip after 25 years that the majority of things that happened to me when I lived there were positive. And that the things that happened that were negative had taken an outsized role in things. And it didn't have to stay that way anymore. And since then, it's something I don't think about very often. And the last time I thought about it before we decided on this topic, probably a year ago. So anyway.
Okay.
There we go.
Very cool.
All right. Oh, and I managed to do it on time. Look at that.
Gosh.
Wow. Give me my kudos, Ashley. Thank you.
Kudos.
All right. Thank you. All right. All right. So let's go and take a break. And Ashley and I can each take a deep breath. Maybe all of you can too. We'll come back. We each have one more story each to share on this special 99th episode of Staying Power. The stories that shaped us. We'll be back in just a minute.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Alternative Talk 1150, here to uplift your day.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
And it is our 99th episode of Staying Power. And today we are building up to the 100th episode, which is going to be about gratitude, by sharing some of the stories that have shaped us the most. These are ones that Ashley and I don't think really have heard from each other before. So we're getting it in real time as you are. And we hope that you're thinking about the stories that have shaped you and maybe thinking of some ways to, integrate them a little bit more. And with that in mind, I mentioned at the beginning, Ashley, that telling stories really does a lot for ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things it also does is it can remind us that the growth in our life does not necessarily emerge from the suffering itself, but the process of making sense of it. Storytelling makes sense of suffering, right? It makes sense. And we're able to say, like, okay, yes, this happened at this point, but then here we are at this point, right? Learn from that. And that's super, super helpful. And when we navigate those things, again, it takes us out of that emotional core in the amygdala in the brain that is looking for safety, that is always looking for threats. It puts it in the prefrontal cortex where we problem solve, where we make meaning, really where we find our footing. So that's kind of the process that we're talking about. All right. So we have 2 more stories each, on each segment.
Sure.
And a couple of things I want to talk about that, if you're struck by both the stories that we told the first one, Ashley and I have had time and have done work on, we're aware of these things. We've accepted them. We know our agency in responding to them. We've chosen to really share them with people that we're connected to, in this case, each other. And we know that this can help us adapt to new identities. Those 5 things are the common factors for healthy integration of these things in your storytelling: awareness, acceptance, agency, attachment, and adaptation. 5 A's. So, okay. So with that in mind, right, I don't want to limit the storytelling because
You're doing great. Those
Yeah.
are really important little pieces of information for people to take.
They
So,
are,
important.
and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Maybe, and actually, if you want me to go into those a little bit more, I'll do some things on social media where I talk a little bit more about each of those for this episode. So, okay. So with that, Ashley, let's go to a second story.
Oh, snap. Okay. My second story of some instance that shaped me happened when I was 22. And I missed my flight to Germany. And that sounds not so horrible. However,
9. That is not good.
yeah,
Das
right?
ist nicht gut.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Oh my.
Like,
Okay,
anyway.
so I was flying over to Germany, and then I was going to be going over to Austria after that to meet up with somebody that I knew that I was going to go tour around in Austria for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So little me, I've never done an international flight before.
It's a big deal.
Huge deal. By myself, language I don't know. I had done some flying within the US, so I had some concept of how the airports worked, but not a whole lot. I did not know a lot about the world, we'll just say. And because, you're 21, and I lived kind of a sheltered upbringing, so there was a lot of the world I wasn't aware of and didn't see and didn't experience at this point. So I remember getting through the airport on this side in the Seattle area and getting to my flight and all the nerves and just like hoping and praying that everything goes okay. And I just land in Frankfurt, and then I get my little puddle jump flight from there to Vienna, Austria.
So you had a connection in
Yes.
Europe. Okay. Even more nerves.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, it's
In a
all
place
gonna go
you've
great.
never been.
Never been. I'm like, it's going to go great.
Language
What could go
you've never
wrong?
spoken.
Like,
Oh, it's
eventually just get from here, there, to everywhere. And somebody set me up for major failure because they're like, oh, there's a lot of English in that airport, so you'll be fine. You'll be able to figure out where you're going.
That is true.
And I was like, okay, maybe I missed all the English. I don't know.
Oh, no.
I saw diagrams of airplanes going up and airplanes going
Yeah,
down
those are still there.
and little arrows and things like that. I didn't see a lot of words that looked like English. So I get there.
Plus, you're tired, right?
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, I was up the entire flight. And then we get there and they put us on this bus that is like a 10-minute bus ride from there to the other side of the airport. And then they're making me go through customs, and I'm nervous and whatever. And I get through it. And then I'm trying to find my flight. And of course, I'm reading the reader board and nothing is adding up. And I'm looking at my ticket and I don't even know on my ticket what I'm supposed to be looking at to know where I'm supposed to go. Like, what's the number and anyways. I asked for help. They point me in the right direction. And then I'm like, oh, and I go up there and obviously nobody there. So I asked the lady at the desk, and I'm like, what happened? And she was not kind. She was very judgy and was like yelling at me in English for missing my flight. And I'm like, well, I went through customs and I went like, I didn't mean to. It's not like I was diddle-daddling in a bar in the airport. I missed my flight from this. So she's now yelling at me. And I'm like, so what do I do? Because I'm like, I don't know where I'm at. I know nobody. I don't know how to speak the language. Nothing looks familiar. The food even looks weird. Like, I don't know. Nothing is comfortable right now. And I don't know how to process this heightened level of uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. They like felt bad. So they figured out what to do, and they put me eventually on a little puddle jump flight.
Did you get mad? Did you get upset? Did you why did they suddenly start feeling better? Did you start crying or something, or did?
I think it finally dawned on them that I was just really lost.
Right.
Like,
okay. You hadn't done something wrong.
Correct. Like I really was just trying to figure things out, and I was late because my flight was delayed coming in and then having to go through customs. And then when they realized I had to go through customs when I landed there and all the delays with that, then they're like, okay, this makes sense. So then they put me on a little flight, and I met this sweet little couple that also really didn't know the area. They were not from America. They were from another country, but they spoke enough English that we could three of us kind of bonded, and then got to where I needed to get to. And I have never felt so relieved seeing my friend on the other side of that. It was like, this was a nice person, and I do care about them. I haven't spoken to them in a long time, but they were my favorite person in the entire world at that moment.
Right,
I was like,
right.
It's like coming home, just
Right.
because there was a level of familiarity. They're a native to the language, to the area. Like, I was like, I'm in safe, good hands now.
Wow.
But and that sounds so horrific, this whole story. But like looking back, I'm like, I just remember that was like one of the first experiences I've ever had where I'm like, I only have myself to count on. And I don't have many tools in my arsenal, because I haven't gone through enough life experience to have them yet. And so I'm literally building a tool of arsenal right now, going through this.
Right.
But I have nothing to work with. And it was really a lot.
Yeah, it sounds
through.
like it. And so how did that shape you? Like, how does that shape you now?
It was
Why does that stand out?
Well, it was one of the first experiences I've had where I learned, like, sometimes when you have no choice, you can count on yourself, even if you have no confidence in the fact you can count on yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, now I always think to myself, like, you know who you are, you know what you're capable of, you know what you can do. You got this, even if it's like my first time doing something. But back then I didn't have all that confidence. I didn't have any of that life experience. And so I always think back to like that moment, because if that would have happened to me now, I would not be nearly as like flustered and frustrated and whatnot. But back then, like little me trying to figure out things in that big scary world, and I'm like, I literally, like, I have to figure this out. I have no choice. What am I gonna do, cry in the corner?
Right.
No one's gonna take me home.
Right.
I mean,
Not
maybe,
in Germany.
but
no.
I mean, I'm cute, but I'm just saying.
So it taught you could count on yourself a bit more, even when you had nothing to work with.
Yes.
That's good, because I would think that for some people that could be really crippling. Like they never want to do that again. Like they want to prevent a repeat of that same experience. But it sounds like that showed you could handle more after that. And so has that come up a lot when you found yourself in situations since then where you're like, I got to dig into my tool bag or build a tool?
Yeah.
Does that story pop in?
Yeah. I mean, I've had it kind of recently, but even on that trip, I took my money and I went to a little bakery and they all were just speaking German, and I had to figure out I was tasked, go get the bread for breakfast tomorrow.
Oh,
Go.
wow.
Okay. And I did. And
Yeah.
I think everyone in the store was probably talking about that dumb little American over there that can't speak anything and whatever. But I figured it out. I figured out how to get the right change and what I needed to order and all the things. And I somehow made it back to where I was staying, even though
so
nothing
good.
was in English. And I was very turned around, but I got there.
Those are big accomplishments, right? And first of all, I want to reassure you, guaranteed you aren't the only American that they've talked about before, not knowing what they're doing. Guaranteed. And I've spent a lot of time in Germany, and I love it there, and I love the people, and I've had similar experiences with that when I did my first travel over there. I got lost in Munich, couldn't find my hotel, and it was awful trying to find it. And by the time I found it, I've been walking around so long, dragging a bunch of stuff around me, no idea where I was, that by the end of it, I was like practically in tears because I was so frustrated, right? And it turns out I've been walking around the same building like 15 times, and it was, anyway. That's not my story, by the way. I'm just saying I can relate. Lost in Germany, right, is or feeling,
Like a movie title.
up a German Alp without a pickaxe. I don't know, something. Second that comes to mind to do what shaped me as a writer more than anything else. And it kind of starts with a sad story. I don't mean to keep going back to these. But when I was in 8th grade, I had several things going on. I was just entering, of course, into teenage years. So there's all of that insanity, right? Puberty, social awkwardness, discovering, you're growing into an adult and everything that comes with that and all those challenges. And I was really getting into music. I was getting into reading. I was wanting to write. I was wanting to sing. I had this dream of being a rock star, right? I was inspired by all my favorites, had all the posters on my wall and all that kind of stuff. And I also, of course, was girl crazy in 8th grade. And in 8th grade, I was in a small school. Each class only had one classroom per grade. So I matriculated from grade to grade to grade with the same group of people from 5th grade on. So we all knew each other. And that can be good, and that can also be bad. It can be tough, particularly when you feel like you're in competition with everybody for attention, or, who's quote unquote dating who. It sounds so silly when you're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, but you remember these things matter. You're trying to find your way through these things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 8th grade, I was madly in love, as I understood it at the time, with a girl in my class. And she was wild about me, and we were like the couple of the class. And for me, a kid with really fragile confidence, to be seen as part of the cutest couple thing, right? We got our name in the yearbook as the cutest couple.
Wow.
Problem was we were no longer a couple when the yearbook came out, which was a problem. That's a part of the story. So I adored it. And all the things. I was buying gifts. I was, being really nice. We were talking on the phone. And of course, we're in 8th grade. But at the time, it felt like the most important thing. And I was euphoric over this. Mm-hmm. I identified a lot around being accepted and being loved and stuff. And it led to challenges for me in my romantic relationships later on. But I was trying to write, and I was finding ways to express this. And I started writing poetry around this time, just the best I could. Well, Friday night, late in the year, we have a class event. It's 8th grade. We're going to graduate that year. So there's all these end of the year events. And a couple months before the year ended, we had a roller skating party, roller rink. That shows you how old I am. Right?
Roller rink.
The roller rink, yeah. And we went, and this girl had been a little aloof for a while, which of course had been freaking me out, right? And I didn't know what to do about that. So I go to this thing, and I was a little late. And, we were all supposed to arrive there, be dropped off by our parents, and then picked up later. And I get there, and everybody's like watching me come in the door, and I have no idea why. And they're looking at me, and they're whispering, and and some of the guys are like looking around like, oh, this is going to be awesome. What's going to happen? And some of the girls are looking at me with just abject pity. And I'm like, what's happening? Look up, and this girl is skating with my best friend in the class, holding hands together.
Not your best friend.
No, one of my best friends.
No.
One of my best. And I had no idea. And it just flattened me, in part because of what I was seeing, rejection, fear, my worst fears. And it's in front of everybody. I couldn't even handle it. I didn't even know what to do. Like I think the boys were waiting for me to rush out there and like start a fight, right? But it's not, I wanted to run and hide, so I did. I just vanished, right? I went to the bathroom. My teacher comes in, and he was very, very sympathetic, but I was inconsolable. I couldn't do anything. He's like, okay. He's like, I think I'm going to take you home. Like, okay. So he, which in some ways was even worse, right? I couldn't even recover, and he took me home. He, of course, then explained to my parents why he's bringing me back. So it's like this whole thing, right? My parents probably thought I was too young to be worrying about these things, but I was just, So over the weekend, I wrote a poem. I started to write one. I tried to write about how I was feeling and what I felt about her, and I was so angry. I was so upset. Blah, blah. I took it to school with me on Monday, which in retrospect was the dumbest thing I could have done. And the reason I took it with me is I didn't want my parents to find it, and so I took it with me, and I went to school. I did not want to be there. I begged my parents to not make me go to school, but I had to go. So I went, and I'm sitting there, and I walk into class, and, they were already sitting by each other anyway. I feel so awkward. It's like the elephant in the room, right? Everybody's on this thing, and the teacher's trying to do the best he can to just get us in through the day. Mm-hmm. I was barely holding on, and the teacher was really gracious, and he would say, look, if you have to step out, just step out. Whatever. Okay. So somewhere halfway through the day, I decided I got to go to the bathroom, right? I can't deal with this, right? I just felt so awkward and terrible. And believe me, my friends who are therapists now was like, there's like 15 things wrong with how these people have handled this. But nevertheless, this is what happened. I went to the bathroom to just get away. And I come back, and I hear from the classroom, before I walk in, people are laughing, kids are laughing, right? I walk in, teacher's nowhere to be found. Another kid in my class is standing by my desk with my poem in his hand, reading it out loud to the class.
What?
Yeah, and the class was laughing at it. Poor girl, that I'd been so infatuated with is mortified, right?
I mean,
mortified. And I think to be fair in retrospect, mortified that they were doing this and what it was doing to me.
sure.
And we did talk a number of years later. We'd talk about this, but nevertheless, that's not part of the story. But nevertheless, it was just the worst possible thing that could have happened. And I walked back out the door. The teacher was coming back from wherever he was, and I just threw up everywhere. And long story short, it didn't get better the rest of the year. The yearbook came out, and we were in the yearbook, it's cutest cup, and all this stuff. And I'm getting ready to leave. I'm going to a new school. A lot of people weren't going to the same school I was. And it scarred me. And I stopped writing poetry that day. I stopped writing fiction. I stopped being interested in wanting to be a rock star. That just died. It just absolutely died. And the way it shaped me, of course, was in an unhealthy way. It really affected my trust in male friends. It affected my ability to feel comfortable in romantic relationships. I always felt like I was going to be replaced or I wasn't good enough. It was codependency, just supercharged. And it really, really affected my life negatively. However, a number of years later, again, on the other side of, life implosion, I decided, as I understood all these things that had happened, and I realized she was a kid. We were both kids. We were all kids, right? Holding on to that like it was this thing that fundamentally altered me for life was not a good idea. I decided to start writing poetry again, trying to. And I started again. And so after that came back the desire to write fiction. Within 3 years, I was writing poetry actively. I have a poetry book. I have that Ashley has seen.
Yes,
I have a book that I'm pitching to publishers. I rediscovered it. And the reason why I think that's so important here is because the power of forgiving myself and forgiving others for just being confused kids made it easier to go, okay, that doesn't have to be so monumental anymore.
All right.
There we go.
That's a great story.
Thank you. So was yours. I mean, it's
Thanks.
interesting, right? You've found ones that are like you've just used tools on, right? But I seemingly had to go for 20 years and burn everything to the ground. But nevertheless, I'm going to try and find a story that's not that for the last one. All right. But speaking of which, we will be back after this on Staying Power, along with our 2 minutes of triumph coming up. We'll be back.
I'm Chris Jackamick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA, is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families. And one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Don't let that herd mentality lead you off a cliff. We support thinking for yourself on Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
Episode 99 of Staying Power. And to kind of lead into episode 100, which will be about gratitude next week, we are talking about some of the stories that shaped us. And these are ones that Ashley and I haven't heard from each other before. And so far, so good.
All right.
Some good stuff. I'm learning a lot about you, Ashley.
Likewise.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So before we get to that third story, though, let's do our weekly segment where Ashley and I each take 2 minutes to talk about something in the past week that has happened, what we've learned from it, all in the name of vulnerability, connectivity, building a better life, all the things we do here every week. This week, we are doing 2 minutes of triumph. Here we go. All right. Our engineer, Nathan, taking liberties with our, I love it. That's a
He's
good
having
one.
So
He's
much
having
fun
so
over
much
there.
fun. Yeah,
this is fantastic.
We've set him loose. And this is what's going to be happening. All right. That's great. Ashley, go ahead.
All right. Well, I got to bear witness to somebody's hard work and perseverance and some support from me accomplish something that has been a huge task and huge goal for them this week. And just for the sake of privacy for them, I can't give a lot of detail, but this is a girl that I know very well, and she is younger and newer in her profession, and she made a huge milestone accomplishment this week, and I got to be there to witness it, and I have been her support and encourager along the way, and it is so cool to see somebody have a moment like that. And I saw the nerves beforehand and the small second guessing and the frustration in the middle and all the things and the relief and her request for something sugary to eat on the other side. And it was great. And she did so well, and very proud of her. But it was such an up moment of the week.
That's
so
really
it was
cool.
very cool.
All right. And she felt good about it afterwards.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, those big milestones, right? Because is this something she's going to be doing more of in the future?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Very cool. All right. My milestone, my triumph was just something, one of those cool moments that you can never plan for.
Oh.
You never see coming. And when you experience them, you realize you've just been given an enormous gift. Recently, out of the blue, my longest standing friend from back in my days, we've been friends since we were 2 years old in Hawaii.
Wow.
2. Yeah, 2 years old. Calls me out of the blue. We don't talk a lot. We check in, but we don't talk a lot. He lives in Hawaii still, and we're very busy people. I get this text from him out of nowhere. I'm driving, and I can see it pop up on my watch. I see his name. It says, "Brother." And it's all I get is, "I've been rerouted for a trip to Boston. I've got a 15-hour layover in Seattle tomorrow. Is it possible at all to get together?"
Nice.
Yep. I literally just picked up the phone right there. Well, I had my earbud in, so I pressed the button. I called him. I said, "Yeah, dude, absolutely. Give me your information." I only had to move a couple things on my calendar, which was great. I picked him up at the airport, and we had 9 hours together because I had to drop him off a little bit earlier because of some other things. And it was just awesome. I hadn't seen him in 7 years.
Wow.
You picked up right where we left off. He has a lot of stuff going on. We had a lot of stuff to catch up on. Our families have been very close for a very long time. His mom helped raise me. My mom helped raise him and his brothers and sisters. And it was just this thing where these two guys who've been connected for so long got to spend 9 hours together they never knew were coming, right? Because he didn't know either. Because all of a sudden all of his itineraries got changed.
Oh, wow.
So it was last minute.
Yeah.
And originally, he thought he was going to only have 2 hours, so he was going to let me know he was coming through. But sorry, I'm missing you. But
Right.
But instead, he got 15, and it was awesome to have that time.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's just
Nice.
a triumph of the universe, I guess, or something like that. So anyway,
That's so cool.
yeah. All right. He is one of the people who's shaped me. I mean, I could tell a million stories about him. But all right, Ashley, our
All right.
final
Our last
stories,
one.
our last
We each
ones.
got 4 minutes to hammer this out.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yes. Okay. So mine is it was not just a single event. It was more like a period of time that I never thought I would be that girl that would borderline, I won't say an eating disorder, but I definitely struggled with, I guess you would call like body dysmorphia. And I know a lot of girls did early on. Started when I was in high school.
Okay.
Obviously, it always starts in high school. I was 12 when I went to high school because I was a grade early and my
Right.
birthday's late in the year, and it all adds up. And it kind of started then, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I got out of that and actually was about 19 or 20, and I found bodybuilding.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have heard that people that struggle with like control and body dysmorphia and whatnot go into bodybuilding because then it's a very controlled environment. You can make yourself as lean as you want and or feel as necessary and whatnot. And there was things that I did in high school that would go to like great lengths to keep myself nice and thin. And of course, nobody knew about it. Funny enough, the two girls in my high school that I kind of idolized, that were like the popular ones. They were very lean. They're really cute and not. Found out later they both had eating disorders. I didn't know it during high school. So that was kind of interesting. But then when I started bodybuilding, it became like obsessive, to the point that I remember there was one time I was so hungry, like just couldn't even keep my brain focused on anything. I was so foggy because I was so malnourished that, and it wasn't like horrific where you see like the videos on TV or whatnot of people, but it was going that direction. I think if it would have kept going, that I had a single plain rice cake because I was so hungry, which all tastes like cardboard.
Right.
There's no substance to those things.
No,
it's
no
like
value to it.
a net of like a couple of carbs and nothing else.
Wow.
And I panicked. I ate one, and then like 10 minutes later, I'm panicking and I'm in the bathroom and I'm freaking out. Should I throw it up? Should I not? Am I going to be okay? Did I totally just mess up things? A rice cake. It was that bad that I had gone that far. And I was very happy with the scale and everything looked great on me. And I was starting to get a lot of compliments about how good I looked. So that's very encouraging to keep going. And there was a few things that kind of woke me up out of it. But there was one day, God bless my dad, but he meant well. But he looked at me, he's like, "You look very sick. Like, you look too skinny. You look really gross. What is going on with you?" And to hear that, it was such a difference from all the other things I'd been hearing from people that I was like, oh. And it's my dad. He doesn't comment on my appearance ever. And to have him like make such a stark remark about it kind of woke me up out of it. And it took a while to heal that relationship with food and to not have those thoughts and whatnot. But
how have you balanced that out now? Because I know you have.
I have gotten a lot better. I've spent many, many years learning what foods work with my body and which ones don't, what is good fuel and what is not. And a lot of it honestly had nothing to do with my body. It was more just my thoughts and my brain and where I find my value. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it actually capped itself when I started training jiu-jitsu. Because I learned to have confidence in my body of what can it do and not what does it look like.
Oh.
But
that's a big shift.
Yes. And to this day, I still struggle sometimes with that stuff where if I feel like I'm not super strict with myself, if I've been too lenient and allowant with myself, that I will really beat myself up over it. And then it goes to the extreme of being like really strict to myself for a while. And that imbalance can be really easy to fall back into.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Didn't know that one.
No, I did not. I did not. Ooh, I got to collect myself on that.
All
one.
right. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I have a lot of feelings about it, but I'm glad that it's something that you shared. I'm going to go, for the sake of everyone, I'm going to go with a story that is not so negative at the front end and difficult, and okay at the back end. It actually also has to do with food. But when I was 15 years old in high school, I came back home one day. And both my parents worked. My sister was working by this point in a part-time job. We very rarely were all together to eat dinner at this point, right? So we were all kind of, what we all called yo-yo. You're on your own, right? And I didn't know how to cook. It just wasn't something I knew how to do. But I knew we were all eating together that night because it was something that we'd all noted. And so I came home. My dad picked me up from school. I come back, 15 years old. I said, "So Dad, what are we having for dinner tonight?" And he goes, "Whatever you're making." And I went, "What?" "Whatever you're making." I said, "Dad, I don't know how to make anything." He goes, "Okay, well, it's time for you to learn."
We're having corn dogs.
So, and he said, "No, you're going to make something. We're not buying, buying something frozen. We're not doing that. You're going to make something." And I said, "Dad, I don't know how to do anything." He said, "I will work with you to do this." So we made spaghetti. It's the first time I'd actually cooked spaghetti. So I had to learn
how to boil water.
Well, I knew how to boil water. I'd been a Cub Scout. I knew that. Right. But I didn't know how did you know when spaghetti was done, right? And how to strain it and rinse it and all that. So I made spaghetti sauce, a salad, and garlic bread. So that's what we made. I had to learn how to do that. And it was complicated. Like I got this thing on the stove and then this thing in the oven and got to get the salad together stuff and get all the table set. I mean, it was like this thing. And he just coached me through it. Now go look at that. Make sure you keep an eye on that. got your time. I had to learn the burners, all these things that I had not done. And then so my family's coming in. I've got the apron on. My sister had a field day, right?
Apron.
My sister
Very
had
important.
a field day. She just thought this was the funniest thing. And so I made dinner and we all ate it and it felt amazing. I was so excited that I had made this. Mm-hmm. And I told my dad that. And he said, here's what I would love to happen for you. By the time you go off to college in 3 years, I would love you to be able to cook 20 meals off the top of your head and know how to do it. And then he says, you will be your friends' heroes. You'll be able to cook a bunch of stuff. And that sounded great. And so I started learning how to cook. And I have grown to I've loved it ever since. It was great in college because I could cook stuff, home cooked stuff that wasn't at the dorm and that kind of thing. I could do that. I got really creative with food. To this day, I love to cook for myself. I don't question the amount of time I take to do it. It's always an investment. I eat more healthy now than I used to. But I love to do it. I love to cook for other people. I guess it's a love language. If I can give somebody that, I love to do that. And it taught me, in the midst of all these other things that I've already shared that I struggle with, it was one of those examples of agency. I have capability. I can learn how to do stuff. And I think just that experience, even beyond food, reminded me, even in those darkest of years, those toughest of times, that I did have the ability to do good things. And I could learn how to do hard things, or that felt hard. And not only could I learn to do them, I could learn to love them. Mm-hmm. And to this day, it is absolutely something I love to do. It's a highlight of every single day that I have, is cooking something. So
nice.
Yeah.
And you're a great chef.
Oh, thank you.
By the way,
Thank
I've
you.
had a couple of your dishes before, and they are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I cannot cook to save my life. Maybe I might be able to save my life with, but it wouldn't be very good.
Sure you
not
can save
to.
your life. Sure, you can save your life.
It will sustain, but
I can teach you to make spaghetti sauce,
I
salad,
can
and garlic bread.
Deal.
All right. Okay. Well, how do you feel, Ashley? I mean, we don't have much time left, but how do you feel having shared all this?
It feels good.
Yeah.
It's fun, actually, to an extent, to share it, and I'm very curious to see how it is received by our viewers and listeners and followers, and those listening out on the radio and whatnot. And I encourage people to send in to us, like, if you want to share something, or encourage you to share something with another person and open up that door for conversation. Absolutely. Either of those would be fantastic. And if you do send them in to us, we'd be happy to read them on the air. We won't give your real name, anything like that. We'd love to hear those things. Because again, storytelling is powerful. It's how we make meaning out of the things that when we have the experience, are really tough. So, okay. Whew. I feel the same way, Ashley. Yeah. And I'm a little tired, actually. It's kind of picking up some of those old things, and then putting them back down again, kind of, takes some energy, but I'm glad we shared them. Thank you so much also for listening to them and listening to this episode of Staying Power. Remember, if you missed any of this episode, or you'd like to catch up on the other episodes of Staying Power, you can get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We also have a YouTube channel, and you can find out more about us at 1150 AM KKNW. At all of those places, there are links in the show notes to all the different ways you can get in touch with Ashley and with me. stayingpowershow@gmail.com. On Instagram, direct messaging, there are a number of options. We'd love to hear from you, love to get feedback, ideas for future episodes, answer any questions either on the air or off the air, and just be part of a larger community that we're looking to build. Because in the end, we are all wanting to build better lives. And we hope that the things we talk about every week make it clear that while some of those things can be uncomfortable, they aren't impossible, and they're worth doing. So join us next week for episode 100 of Staying Power. And just like today in episode 99, then I will be JDK Winnikin. And I'm Ashley.
All right. See you next week. 100.